What's up guys, Lon here from Android Authority, and welcome back to another episode of Camera 360. On this show, we attempt to break down a smartphone camera in about 3 minutes time. We're gonna give you the gist of everything that you need to know while keeping everything short and sweet. We're gonna talk about the camera app, its features, and of course the image quality. Today's smartphone is the Honor View 20, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Alright, so as a quick refresher, let's go over the camera specs. The Honor View 20 has a 48 megapixel primary rear sensor that's paired with a 3D time of flight sensor. The front facing shooter is 25 megapixels and has an aperture of f2.0. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's take a look at the camera app and see what it has to offer. If you've used any other recent Honor or Huawei device, you'll know exactly what to expect here. The camera app is very straightforward, which makes it super simple and easy to get around. The shutter button is dead center along the bottom and is flanked by a camera rotation and image preview button on either side. Switching between the different modes such as portrait, photo, video, night mode, or AR lens can be done by simply swiping across the viewfinder like you can on most other smartphone camera apps. There's also a more section for many other specialized features, including a manual pro mode, slow motion, panorama, light painting, HDR, and more. Like most smartphone cameras, the Honor View 20 performs very well in bright conditions. Images are very well balanced with good detail in the shadows and pretty uniform exposure across the board. Photos are sometimes a tad on the underexposed side, but nothing too major. Colors overall are punchy but not oversaturated, and skies have a nice bright blue to them to make the images really pop. The View 20 does an excellent job of enhancing the image without making the colors look unnatural or fake. The level of detail that the View 20 is able to capture is also quite sharp. There's no smudging or clarity loss when you take a closer look. In this example, if you zoom in on the wood, you can still see the texture between the wood cracks. This next image here, there's no motion blur from the movement of the airplane, and the plane itself retains a lot of its own detail. There's a lot going on in this image here, but you can still easily zoom in and make out plenty of detail, including being able to still read the small price tags on the items. In terms of HDR, the View 20's HDR processing is not very aggressive, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. The View 20 has good dynamic range already, that it doesn't need much help, and its more natural HDR image processing means photos don't look over processed. You still get plenty of detail in shadowy areas, as you can see in this image here, and you can still see a lot of the texture that's on this wooden Wells Fargo box. The Honor View 20 is an equally fantastic shooter in low light, especially if you lean on its built-in night mode, which works incredibly well. With night mode enabled, you're going to be able to get shots that have more detail, better exposure, and a heck of a lot less noise. Despite some of these shots being taken in extremely dark conditions, the results were very clean and impressively sharp. The front-facing camera is great in terms of its resolution, giving you plenty of room to zoom, crop, and reframe your images, but the selfies don't necessarily go above and beyond. You get nice exposure and good color, but details aren't super sharp due to the skin softening. It isn't super aggressive, and there are some worse offenders out there, but it is noticeable. As for video, the View 20 doesn't do much to blow you away. Frame rate is capped at 30 FPS when you're shooting at 1080p or 4K, which means you won't be able to slow the footage down without it getting choppy, but it does do well in terms of image stabilization, even when shooting at 4K. It's also pretty good at making colors pop and does fairly well with balancing exposure, although it can be a little spotty at times. Overall, we gave the Honor View 20 a score of 8.48 out of 10. If you want to find out why, make sure to check out the written version linked in the description below, which covers the camera much more in depth and provides a more detailed breakdown of the overall score. If you want to see the full resolution images for yourself, we'll also have that linked below as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of Camera 360.